trust him. God's teeth. The scent of cooking rice had never smelled so sweet. Riam's stomach clenched as he stared across the dirt road. An open-air tavern stood empty save for the cook stirring an iron pot over the fire. The establishment was little more than a hut propped up in a clearing, 4 beams supporting a straw-thatched roof. Bare wooden benches offered weary travellers a place to rest between towns and partake of food and drink. Travellers with coin, of course. The only metal Riam had touched in months was the steel of his sword. He was nearly hungry enough to eat that. The proprietor perched at the entrance, whip thin and wily in his black robe, as he stared down the vacant trail. Nothing but wooded thickets in either direction. A single dirt road cut through the brush, leading to the stand. Riam pulled his hood over his head with a sharp tug and retreated into the shade. He was too big, his skin too pale, a barbarian in the Chinese Empire. Bai Gui, they called him. White demon. Ghost man. He wrestled with his pride, preparing to beg if he had to. Before he could approach, a mottled shape appeared in the glare of the afternoon sun. The proprietor jumped into motion and waved the newcomer into the tavern. "Huai, Guizhu, huai," the proprietor gushed. His head bobbed as he bowed and bowed again. "Welcome, my lord, welcome." 4 men followed the first traveller inside and tossed their weapons with a clatter onto the table. Their presence forced Riam back beneath the branches. A heartbeat later, he realized what was bothering him. That was no man at the center of this rough bunch, not with hips that swayed like that. He was wrong about many things, but there was no mistaking the instinctive stir of his blood at the sight of her. The woman wore an owl-grey tunic over loose-fitting trousers. A woolen cap hid her hair. With her height, she could have passed for a lanky youth. She affected a lofty confidence as she addressed the proprietor. Behavior appropriate for a male of superior status. Riam knew the rules of status. As a foreigner, he was the lowest creature on the ladder, a hair above lepers and stray dogs. It was one of the reasons he skirted the back country, avoiding confrontation. The promise of a hot meal had tempted him into the open. The sight of this woman tempted him in another way. Beneath the formless clothing, she moved with a fluid grace that made his pulse quicken. He had forgotten that irrational pleasure of being distracted by a pretty girl. Blind masculine instinct aside, the determination with which she carried on with her ruse made him smile. He wasn't the only one paying such careful attention to her. The proprietor cast a scrutinizing glance over his shoulder while he spoke to the cook, then donned his previously submissive demeanor as he returned to the table, balancing bowls of rice soup on a tray. Apparently, the woman overestimated the effectiveness of her disguise. The proprietor set down the last bowl before his customers, then looked up. His mouth twisted into a scowl the moment he saw Riam across the road. "Away with you!" He strode to the edge of the stand. "Worthless son of a dog." Riam let his hand trail to the sword hidden beneath his cloak. He had become a master at biting his tongue, but today the sun bore into him like bamboo needles, and the ache in his belly felt all the more hollow. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't think to use his weapon against this fool, but he seriously considered it as the verbal abuse continued. It was like being pecked to death by an irate rooster. He gritted his teeth. "The old man doesn't own this road," he muttered. At least he hoped he said that. All the years on this side of the world, and the only phrases he had at his command were bawdy insults and a smattering of pillow talk. The rooster ducked inside, only to re-emerge with a...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.